Hon.Javi. I was really impressed by your talk, very comprehensive. As you can see, I took a lot of notes. I want to be able to focus on actionable policy, and I think you provided a lot of insights. Because the goal of SONAI for our gathering today is to come up with actionable insights in light of ASEAN, our ASEAN chair. We are looking at concrete actions within the next maybe 12, 24 months. I want to focus, Congressman, on a couple of things for the next maybe 15 minutes, and maybe end with a commitment, right? Encouraging a commitment. Of all the options that you provided, maybe we could focus on just one big commitment that could be realizable within the next 12 months. Very hard, right? Given our political climate and our system of governance. I'm really interested about your sandbox ideas. Right? I think this is very underappreciated. Of course, you're in Congress, you see ideas being thrown about, but from your deck, I see that you've actually operationalized realizable sandboxes. Right? Given our forthcoming chair in the ASEAN, what do you think? How do you think can we enable these regulatory sandboxes for AI initiatives that could best empower our startups, our MSMEs, without compromising, let's say, security, safety, and consumer protection? What are your ideas about launching these sandboxes for the Philippine government?
Thank you, Attorney. And yes, it was comprehensive. I hope I didn't take too much time over there, but I think it was part of the distillation process of a lot of the AI bills. I think when we talk about sandboxes, we want to make sure that these are safe. We want to make sure that it's a conducive environment that doesn't stifle innovation. I think we want to have the minimum standards where companies and startups can participate in a framework where they can interact with government incentives by having their ideas funded. We also want to make sure that, first of all, is that the data agreement be institutionalized. If not, then sometimes legislation takes a while. So we hope that interim guidelines is presented so that there are ideas and that are protected, especially for when you talk about intellectual property. But at the same time, we also want to have interoperability with many of our government agencies and departments. So I think with ASEAN, I think we want to be able to work with a lot of our neighbors. And so I think when it comes to the chairmanship, we hope to push for a sandbox that is free-flowing, but at the same time respects each neighboring country's data privacy agreements. And so I think it's something that is going to be on the topic of discussion for our chairmanship.
Yeah, I think if we succeed in sandbox initiatives, we have a solid use case, we might be able to even present that among us, our ASEAN neighbors. Let's talk about digital infrastructure. There's a lot of issues here, right? From internet connectivity, crazy stuff, right? People manning, the infrastructure, and of course we're talking about cross-society infrastructure from LGUs, from national agencies to even our development partners and even private sector. If you had one thing to focus on, given our tremendous resource constraints, right? Which type of infrastructure, right, which you think would be the best investment, bang for your buck, within the next, let's say, 12 months in these short-term timetables?
I'm still trying to figure out how useful for the Philippines it is to invest in, for example, data centers with a huge compute. I think what we've been seeing in our neighboring ASEAN countries as well is that if the government spends for these build out on data centers, the question is, are these going to be able to be used? Are these worth the investment? Do we work with other big tech companies on this? Is that the possibility? But we also know that many of these big tech and AI firms are building in their own jurisdictions. So it seems to me that we should be investing in infrastructure that is, for example, for APIs, for example, interoperability in terms of our data and agencies and departments. We should look at permission access algorithms that we may be able to adopt as well from cloud infrastructure from other and these outside tech firms, and not even to mention, I think the data centers, it comes into the environmental aspect of it with water, clean water, and whether I think that's something that we should also factor into. But bringing it to a more kind of like a local level, I remember when I started in local government, I think people have some people still have that idea that IT is repairing computers. And I think when I was talking about how, no, it's not only hardware, it's software. And we're talking about artificial intelligence, but when we look at many of our localities in the country, that the IT departments are still on the repair kind of mindset. So I think what we need is to really have a true and honest assessment and a data maturity assessment within our government to see whether our people understand it, are they skilled enough, what do we move from that to where our budget should go, whether it's buying new computers, is it providing the fiber backbone, is it giving Starlink to many of these rural areas. And so even if we invested in, for example, our data centers, it may not be useful yet for the Filipino people because there's still that challenge of awareness, understanding, and even connectivity.